Hi everyone, this is Shauna from the Foiled Fox, and today I'm doing a tulip card, which is actually a trifold. A trifold is a real fun card to do if you haven't done one, and I really encourage you to give it a whirl. Made with the Penny Black First Blooms die set, which has those wonderful delicate tulips, and then using also the Whimsy stamp hand-stitched frames. I'm going to use the two small ones, and those are going to create the windows. So starting with a piece of Ganson 90-pound watercolor paper, cut to 5 3/4 by 11 1/2, and then scored at 3 7/8, and then again at 7 3/4, and then fold on those. That creates the trifold. And then taking the large die of the rectangle die, and then I'm going to cut that in the center to give that window, and then I'm going to position the small one right in the center of the large one, so you can see how that folds up and it gives you a little bit of a telescoping look to your card. So now that that's done, I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to get another piece of watercolor paper, a little bit heavier than the 90-pound. I use the 90-pound because it folds very nicely. It doesn't crack when it's folded, but I like to have a little bit more stout cards, watercolor paper for the tulips. So starting with the moistening the tulips with some clean water, and then I'm going to dab in this watercolor. By putting the water on it first, that allows the watercolor to flow a little bit better and have a natural shading to it. So the tulips I'm choosing to do some in pink, and then also there's going to be some in yellow with a little bit of a pink accent. The colors I'm using today, the watercolors, happen to be a Dr. P.H. Martin Hydrus colors, but you can use any of watercolors that you love. It really doesn't matter. It happens that these are very vibrant, and that's what I was looking for, is a real vibrant color. But again, you can use whatever you'd like. Then now that I have the pink pretty much done, you'll see me fuss with a little bit more in a little bit, but I'm going to take some greens. I'm going to have a light green and a little bit darker green, and I'm going to color these stems and leaves. They're quite delicate, so it doesn't take a lot of color. It looks like a lot is going on, but it really isn't. It's mostly going on the paper that's behind it. So I'm going to move these flowers away from the green there in the background, so you can see that it doesn't have a lot of pigment in the leaves and the stem. And I'm going to add a little bit more to give a little bit more intensity. And once that's done, see where I had that flower? I don't know if you saw that real quick. I had a flower that was completely colored on one side, and then I'm flipping it over now and I'm coloring it on the other side. It's important with these flowers because it is a window card, and the flowers will show on both the front and the back, because you see the front when you see the card closed, but when you open it, you also see the back through the window. So you have to paint them on both sides. So be sure to let them dry completely on one side and then flip them over and color them on the other side. I'm not really illustrating how I did the yellow ones. You're going to see real quick here in a minute where I took a yellow one where I just painted the head of the flower in yellow, and now I'm adding just a little bit of that pink in there so that they blend nicely with the pink flowers, and they give a little interest to the yellow tulips. Now I painted a bunch of these because you need a bunch, but I'm only showing a few here. So while those dry, I'm going to take a Kuriotaki Zig Manamacaca pen, which is a mouthful. I can hardly get that out. And I'm going to use, I think this is an 01, and I'm just drawing lines around the frame. I just want to define those a little bit. You could take a ruler if you'd like. I find that I'm not as effective with a ruler as I am just drawing it, and I do like kind of that little rougher hand-drawn look. And so see how that defines those frames? And then to make it accentuated a little bit more, I'm taking a Copic marker. This happens to be Y15. And I am just rubbing it along those edges. I'm not rubbing it flat on the paper, but just on the edges, and then it kind of bleeds slightly into the paper, which is what I want because it creates that yellow border both inside and out. And then you'll see that when I close this up, after I've finished adding the yellow, and you can continue to do this until you get as much as you like. You can see how, look how it creates a little bit of a pop to the frames. So now that that's done, it's time to arrange some flowers. And I'm just taking a Tombow tape runner that is repositionable for a period of time, and then if you leave it in that position, then it will become permanent. But it gives you a chance to move them around while you're trying to decide where they should go. And then once you've decided that, you can just leave it alone and it will solidify. But I'm just taking these flowers and deciding how I want to arrange them. My idea is that when the card is closed, all you see are these wonderful tulips, and then when it opens, each window shows you a different look. So now that the two panels on the front and the one in the center, I'm going to do the last panel, and I decided that it needed a little bit of a focal point, so I'm taking some tumbled glass distress ink, and I'm going to add some blue in the background. So I just am setting those flowers there because I'm kind of determining just where that blue should go. And I moistened that with some water first, and then I'm adding some blue, tumbled glass distress ink. And I'm just pouncing that in there just to create kind of a really nice backdrop for the flowers. I just keep checking it back, kind of semi-closing that window in on it so that I can tell just what how much I need to add or not add. Now, I suggest you don't do what I just did. I went and I tapped my brush to get some splatters, but I didn't cover the two panels on the side, so then I had to quickly take those off with some water. So please cover it ahead of time, and then you don't have my troubles. And I'm just getting it the way I'd like and adding splatters where I'd like. I did add a little bit of the faded jeans with this as well, just to give a couple of different color tones to the blue. And now that that is completely dry, I'm going to now arrange the tulips. Now my original thought was I was just going to have tulips there, but now I decided that I wanted kind of a bouquet or an arrangement. So I found some pots. These come from the Honeybee Stick With Me die set, and they have all these assortments of pots you can choose from, and I just cut one of those out. I added some water to it, and I'm now coloring it, and I'm coloring it with blueprint sketch, distress ink, and also some black soot. I added a little bit of faded jeans here and there as well. The black soot is quite diluted, but it is giving that darker look so I can define the top and the bottom, and I can also define the edges, because the more I do that, where I make the edges a little bit darker, then it creates more of a shadow, making the pot look a little bit more round. And then I'm careful to leave an open area for it's without any ink there, so just to be kind of the reflection on the pot. Now that that's done and good and dry, I have all my pieces here. So I'm going to take these tulips and I'm going to arrange them. Now I'm going to arrange them very much like I arrange real flowers. I'm just going to look at the pot and I'm going to look at the arrangement, and then I'm just going to move these flowers along. Now I don't know if you do what I do when I arrange. When I'm arranging real flowers, I put one in and then I pull it out and then I put another one in another area, and I just keep moving them around till I get to the arrangement that I like. And that's exactly what I did here. Now see how that's exactly how I wanted it. I wanted all these wonderful tulips, and then when you open it up, then you have this really nice display. Now you can see that I'm still not happy with the display. I want to change that arrangement, so I pluck flowers out here and there and move them around. And just when you think that I'm just about done with everything, then I'm going to go and pluck out another bit of flowers and put it in another one. Now you see how I keep checking that and putting that flap over there, and that's because I want to make sure that the pot isn't showing through the window. I want to make sure that that's a little bit lower. Now I added a little bit more of those yellow tulips, and I think that looks a little bit better. So with that done, I'm going to add the sentiment. Now you can use any sentiment that you would like. I happen to like this quote, which is from Audrey Hepburn. It's "To plant a garden is to believe in tomorrow." I really like that sentiment, and so I'm going to divide it up into 3 parts and then put a part on each panel. So I drew some lines there. I was using that ruler, that see-through ruler with all those grid lines. That helps me position it and make it straight without having to do a lot of measuring, because those grids on there, I can just position them where I need them to be and then move them up and down that grid. If you don't have one of these, it's an invaluable tool to me. I just love this ruler. You can find it, by the way, in the Foiled Fox website. But going on, I'm penciling this in, even though I'm going to do it by pen and ink. And the reason why I'm penciling it in is because usually I just do the lines when I do this, but I'm actually writing it all in. And the reason why is because I've made this card, and this is at the final steps, and I'm worried that I'll misspell something, and then the whole card will be ruined. So I'm just being a little bit careful there, and I'm actually writing it in. Now I'm using an oblique pen and a pen holder with a nib and some ink, black ink, and I am penning this in. Now you can just as easily, like I said, use a stamp that you like, or you can write this in. Just use one of your Pigma micron pens or the Magna pens. They work very nicely. Or if you like to do it in pen and ink like this, that's a nice choice too. But any of those work, so don't be afraid of that. And then while that's drying, the ink drying a little bit, I decided that the flowers needed to be grounded a little bit, need a little bit of shadow. So I took some diluted black soot, and I'm just adding a little bit of the shading and to give a little bit of a grounding to those flowers. So once that's dry, then I'm going to go on the inside. Don't try doing this without it being totally dry, because you don't want to mess up what you just finished. And then I'm going to ink in the last bit of the sentiment. Sorry about my hair there. I tried to cut it out of the video as much as possible, but that little bit ended up staying in there. So I'm going to just finish that there, and then giving credit to Audrey Hepburn. That is so tiny. Her name is long and it's so tiny. I took a Magna Carta pen, that 005, that .005 actually. It's a very, very fine point, and I'm just penning in her name. Then when that is all dry, then and good and dry, because I don't want to mess that up, I'll go through and erase all of my lines. But in the meantime, I'm going to add a shadow again under that pot so that I can give it a little bit of a ground as well. So I'm just kind of checking if that still works, if I got everything right, and I don't have ink all in the wrong places. And so here is the card. It's when it's folded, and then as we open it, you'll see that you have a seam from each flap that you fold open or close. I hope you enjoyed this card. Here is a supply list. You can pause here if you want to look at it more closely, or you can pop over to our blog. You can find that link below, and there you will find a complete description and supply list, as well as other projects. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give us a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. Thanks again, and we'll catch you next time.